There's a certain comfort we cling to, the illusion that once we're inside our homes, with the door locked and the lights on, we're safe. Four walls, a roof, and a sturdy bolt between us and the rest of the world. That's all it takes to sleep soundly, right? And yet, no matter how tightly we seal the windows, how thick the curtains hang, there are nights when we still feel it. That low, gnawing sense that something is just outside, watching, waiting, pressed up against the edge of our world, looking for a way in. Sometimes it's a shadow we dismiss, a noise we explain away, a feeling we swallow, but other times it's real and it knocks. These stories aren't about ghosts or serial killers. They're about the moments when the places we think protect us turn against us, when homes become traps, when ordinary doors open to something far worse than the outside world. If you've ever felt that unease, that flicker of dread just before sleep, that hesitation before checking the hallway at night, these stories are for you. And if you ever hear a knock, one that wasn't supposed to be there, don't open the door. If you've ever searched for a cheap place to stay, really searched, scraping the bottom of Craigslist listings, you've seen the kind of ads I'm talking about. A room for rent at half the price you'd expect. No credit check, no references. Just a short description, a vague photo, and a message that seems to whisper, "Desperate people welcome." I used to think the worst thing you'd find in a place like that was a leaky faucet, or maybe a roommate who steals your food. Now I know better. Because what I found wasn't human. And I don't think the house was either. This story isn't a warning to be careful who you live with. It's a warning to never assume the walls around you were built for people. When I moved to the city, I didn't have much. Just a duffel bag, a laptop, and a job offer that barely covered bus fare. I'd left behind a relationship that had gone cold, a family I barely spoke to, and a version of myself I was trying to outrun. I needed a fresh start, not something glamorous, just somewhere to land. The ad felt like fate. Room available, $400 per month, utilities included, must be quiet, must be clean, must not ask questions. The last line made me pause, sure, but everything else sounded like a dream. I told myself it was just some old man who didn't want drama. And at that price, I couldn't afford to be picky. The address led me to a remote corner of the outer suburbs, one of those liminal neighborhoods where every house looks like it was copied and pasted from a forgotten blueprint. As I walked the last few blocks, because the bus didn't go that far, I noticed the silence. Not peaceful silence, but heavy, expectant. The kind that makes you instinctively look over your shoulder. The house stood at the end of a cul-de-sac. 2 stories, peeling beige siding. A porch that leaned slightly forward like it wanted to speak but never did. No car in the driveway, no lights in the windows, just stillness. Before I could knock, the door creaked open. A woman stood there, mid-50s, maybe older, with skin like old paper and eyes so pale they looked drained. She didn't smile, didn't introduce herself, just opened the door a little wider and said, "Third room on the left. Upstairs." No keys, no contract, no questions. The hallway I stepped into felt wrong in ways I couldn't name. Narrow, unlit, and lined with closed doors that seemed taller than they should have been. The walls were bare. The air was stale, like no one had opened a window in decades. As I climbed the staircase, careful not to make noise, though I didn't know why, I noticed something strange. There were no creaks. No give in the wood beneath my feet. It felt like the house was absorbing the sound. My room was simple. A twin bed, a chipped dresser, and a window that faced a dense cluster of trees. I dropped my bag and sat on the mattress. The springs groaned beneath me. That's when I heard it. A knock, software deliberate. It came from the wall behind my bed. Not the kind of knock you make when you want someone's attention. Just one tap. Measured. Almost polite. I froze, my breath caught in my throat. Listened, waited. But nothing followed. The first week passed in uneasy quiet. I kept to myself. I tried not to think about the knock. I assumed, hoped, it was pipes or wood settling or something mundane. But that assumption started to wear thin the more time I spent in the house. I began to notice the others. Not all at once. They never gathered, never spoke. But I'd catch glimpses. A man in a coat 2 sizes too big passing me in the hallway with eyes fixed straight ahead, or a woman whose hair dragged along the floor as she stood motionless in the kitchen, her back turned to me for what felt like hours. I never heard their doors open or close, never heard their footsteps. But at night, the house came alive. It started with the faintest creaking above my ceiling, which didn't make sense because I was on the top floor. Then came the whispers outside my door, like someone breathing just inches from the threshold. Drawers in the kitchen would slide open and shut in quick succession, as if someone was going through them blindly. And always, just before the sky began to lighten with dawn, came the knock. One, single, knock, same wall, same rhythm, same unbearable silence after. I tried to confront the woman, the one who had opened the door that first day. I found her standing perfectly still at the bottom of the stairs one morning, staring at the front door like she was waiting for something. I asked, "Do you know what the noise is at night?" She didn't turn to me. She didn't blink. "You've already been told," she said. Her voice was flat, as if reading from a page. No questions. Except I hadn't been told, not out loud. The night it all broke, the night I stopped pretending things were normal, I woke to the sound of my bedroom door slowly creaking open. My chest went tight. I stared into the darkness beyond the foot of the bed, and though I saw nothing, I could hear breathing again. But closer this time, inside the room. I reached for the lamp on the bedside table. As soon as my fingers brushed the switch, the bulb shattered with a sharp, cracking pop. Glass sprayed across the sheets. The breathing stopped. And then, for the first time since I'd arrived, I heard footsteps. Not going away, coming toward me. But when I screamed, when I finally yelled and scrambled out of bed, there was nothing. No one. The room was empty. I packed that morning, threw everything into my bag and headed down the stairs. The hallway felt longer, the walls tighter, but I didn't look back. I opened the front door and stepped out, and found myself standing in the upstairs hallway, third door on the left. Mine. I tried again, downstairs, outside, trees, grass. But when I blinked, hallway, same exact place. The house wasn't a building, it was a trap, a loop, a snare, disguised as shelter. And the others weren't victims, they were features. The last thing I remember clearly was standing in front of the hallway mirror, the only one in the house. I was going to check my face. Just to see, to make sure I still looked like me. But my reflection didn't move. It stared. And then it smiled. A wide, knowing smile I didn't feel inside me. I don't remember leaving. I don't remember walking back to the bus or how I ended up in my current apartment. But I know this. I don't have mirrors anymore. And every night, just before dawn, I hear a knock on my wall. One, single, knock. The ad is still up. Same price, same address, same rules. If you see it, don't answer. People go missing in the woods all the time. That's what they say, right? It's easy to write off. You take a wrong turn, your phone dies, the forest swallows you whole. But we weren't careless. We weren't stupid. We followed the trail. We had water, maps, even GPS. And still, we got lost. Only, that's not the part that scares me. The part that haunts me is this. I don't think we were alone, and I don't think we ever left the forest. It started as a casual day hike, me and my girlfriend Leah. We'd driven upstate for the weekend to escape the noise of the city. We both needed it. Long walks, tall trees, no reception. The kind of peace you can only find in places untouched by pavement. We parked at the trailhead just after noon. The map at the sign-in station listed a 2-hour loop. Nothing strenuous. Easy terrain. The weather was perfect. Late summer light filtering through the canopy. Air thick with the scent of pine and dry earth. We even joked about how nice it was to disconnect, to get lost for a little while. In hindsight, that was a cruel bit of foreshadowing. The first hour was uneventful. Birds, distant running water, our boots crunching over twigs and dead leaves. Leah stopped to take pictures. I marked our path on my phone's GPS just in case, but the trail was clearly marked. Orange paint on tree trunks every 50 feet or so. Then, at some point, the markers vanished. We didn't notice right away. We were talking, distracted, enjoying the quiet. But after 15, maybe 20 minutes, Leah slowed down. "Do you remember the last blaze?" she asked. I looked around. Nothing. No orange paint, no signage, just trees. We doubled back, sure we'd missed a turn, but the trail behind us had changed. What was once a packed dirt path now looked untouched. No footprints, no signs of human use. "Maybe we circled," I offered. "Maybe we're tired." But we weren't tired. And we hadn't circled. The sun began to drop faster than it should have. That was the first real sign that something was wrong. I checked my watch. It was 2:47 p.m., but the light filtering through the trees had taken on that golden, dying tone you see around 7 p.m. I pulled out my phone. No signal, no GPS lock, the map wouldn't load. We kept walking, we didn't know what else to do, and then we started to hear sounds. Not animals, not birds, voices, distant, barely audible, but undeniably human. Laughter, maybe, or sobbing. I couldn't be sure. We called out, got no answer. Eventually, we found a small clearing. The kind of place you'd expect to see an old fire pit or discarded beer cans. But it was empty, unnaturally so. Even the insects had gone quiet. In the center of the clearing was a single shoe, a child's sneaker, clean, new, untouched by dirt. Leah picked it up, turned it over in her hand. "Why would this be here?" she asked. I didn't have an answer. That night, we camped without a tent. We hadn't brought one. It was supposed to be a 2-hour hike. We made a fire with shaking hands and huddled beside it, trying to make sense of the landscape that no longer obeyed the rules of the world. At some point in the early hours, I woke to a noise I still can't explain. It was like branches snapping in a slow, deliberate pattern, as if someone, something, was walking around us in a wide circle. Just far enough not to be seen, just close enough to be heard. Then came the whisper. Right next to my ear, a voice that wasn't Leah's. "You should have turned back." I bolted upright. The fire had gone out. Leah was awake, staring into the dark with wide, tear-filled eyes. "Did you hear that?" she asked. I nodded. We didn't sleep again. The next day, we walked and walked. No food, no water. The trees never changed. The light never changed. It was like we were stuck in a single moment, looping through the same square mile of forest. And yet nothing looked familiar. That night, Leah cried. Not just from fear, from exhaustion, from hunger. from the awful, creeping suspicion that we were never going to leave. When we found the trail again, or what we thought was a trail, it was almost worse, because it looked like a path, but only if you didn't look too hard. The dirt was too smooth, the branches too evenly spaced, like something had built it for us. It wasn't just the unnatural symmetry that unsettled us, it was how intentional everything felt. The path curved gently, invitingly, almost beckoning us forward. There were no fallen logs, no tangled roots, no signs of decay. Just a pristine corridor through the woods, as if nature had been edited. I looked at Leah, and she looked at me, and neither of us said it out loud, but we both felt it. This wasn't part of the forest. Not really. It was like walking into a stage set, a place constructed to seem familiar, but stripped of all imperfections. The silence along the trail deepened the further we walked, until even the sound of our own footsteps began to feel out of place. At one point, I stepped off the path just for a moment, to test it, to see what would happen. The moment my boot touched the edge of the underbrush, the quiet shattered. A branch snapped above us, loud and jarring, and somewhere deeper in the woods, we both heard something shift, something big. Leah grabbed my arm. "Don't leave the path," she said, her voice thin and trembling. We kept going, faster now. The trail led us around a wide bend, and just beyond it, we saw something that stopped us cold, a structure, a house. As we followed it, hoping for even the faintest sign of civilization, we came across something that didn't belong. A house. An old, two-story wooden cabin tucked between the trees, where no house should have ever been. The windows were fogged. The front door was slightly ajar, creaking with the wind. We didn't hesitate. We ran inside and slammed the door shut behind us. At first, the silence was comforting, shelter at last, but the calm didn't last long. Something outside screamed. Not an animal, not a person. Something else. We heard footsteps around the porch, fast, then slow. Then something started scratching at the walls, not clawing, scratching. Leah sobbed and pressed herself into the corner of the room. I held the door, though no one was trying to open it. The noises grew louder, voices began to murmur outside, then yell, then whisper again. It was like a chorus of minds unraveling around us. And then, silence. The pressure in the room shifted. My ears popped. Leah's breathing slowed. I remember sitting down in the middle of the floor. I remember feeling numb. And then, nothing. We woke up to daylight, calm. The forest looked normal outside the window, but inside, something was wrong. We weren't afraid anymore. We weren't anything. No panic, no hunger, no confusion. Just emptiness. Like someone had scooped out the fear and left us hollow. We found a trail and followed it until we reached the road. It took us hours, but it didn't matter. We felt nothing. It wasn't until months later that the feelings started to fade. Not all at once, but gradually, in pieces. A laugh here, a memory there, a sudden chill in the middle of the night. As if our emotions had been taken, and only returned when something decided it was done with us. Now, a year later, I feel mostly like myself again. But sometimes I catch Leah staring at the edge of the forest behind our apartment. And when I ask her what she's looking at, she says, "There's something watching, waiting." And I believe her. Home is supposed to be the place we go when the world outside becomes too much. It's where we keep the lights warm, where we eat, sleep, and let ourselves forget how unpredictable life can be. It's a sanctuary, or at least that's what we want to believe. But the truth is, four walls don't guarantee safety. A locked door doesn't mean you're alone. Sometimes the danger doesn't wait outside. Sometimes it waits inside, patiently, quietly, hidden in the cracks of routine and the silence between footsteps. Both of these stories have something in common: the betrayal of space. In one, a home wasn't a home at all, but a cage dressed in drywall and rules no human could understand. In the other, a path through the woods led not to a clearing, not to safety, but to an imitation of shelter that did something far worse than harm the body. It erased the soul. Fear doesn't always come with claws or teeth. Sometimes it's a reflection that smiles when you don't. Sometimes it's a room where you don't remember falling asleep. Sometimes it's that quiet voice that tells you to just go inside, just one step further, because it'll all be okay. But not every door should be opened, not every path should be followed, and not every structure was built to keep things out. Some were built to keep you in. So wherever you are tonight, city, forest, or somewhere in between, just remember, if something knocks, and you weren't expecting anyone, let it knock, and don't open the door.